Following a day of drama in the latest Glasgow Derby, Celtic now head into the last 6 games of the league campaign, knowing that our destiny is fully in our own hands as we look to retain the Scottish Premiership trophy for a third successive season. We'll discuss the fallout from the big game and much more in this latest episode of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and tonight I'm joined by a full house of Miff, James and Paddy as we once again cover all things Celtic. Miff, your opening comments on the 3-3 draw at Ibrox.
Hello Tino, hello James, hello Paddy, hello listeners. Opening comments are one of initial frustration because you've let a 2-goal lead slip at Ibrox, which would normally be cause for a bit of consternation amongst the support. But then I think when you analyse the game as a whole, and much like a story of the season, self-inflicted in some ways, referee-inflicted in other ways, you know, moments of sheer brilliance, moments of stupidity, but we're still in there. You know, despite everything, I often have spoken about the trajectory of this season, and it's seemingly been one that we were just going to let slip away. Huge credit to the manager and the players for still being in there pitching, still being in there fighting when it could have all combusted at some point. They've clawed it back to the point where now they sit top and are in a position where if they win 6 games, they've won the league. I think a lot of credit has to go to the players, and I will even say the manager, for guiding us to this point. But in the context of the game, immediately afterwards, very, very frustrated.
You mentioned a couple of weeks back, Miff, that you felt that Rangers had potentially peaked too soon in the context of the season. Do you feel, even marginally now, that Celtic, or the momentum has swung slightly back in Celtic's favour?
I'd say yesterday shows me that Rangers are feeling the pressure. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Celtic looked like the team liberated and able to express themselves, albeit that I think Celtic's style of football probably leans more towards that. Celtic's is an expressive, free-flowing style of football. Rangers is more, I would describe as hustle-bustle with some fairly decent individuals contained within there, but Rangers seemed to set up to contain yesterday, which I thought was a wee bit odd. Dare I say, maybe a rare misstep from the footballing god that is Philippe Clement. Maybe a moral victory for Celtic, some would argue, that he went defensive, but that's maybe for others to say. I feel that Rangers are feeling the pressure, and I think they were, despite everything that's went on, I think they were hugely surprised by how Celtic played yesterday, and I think that probably just about sums it up. What yesterday taught me was that Rangers aren't Celtic's problem. It's Celtic that are Celtic's problem, and how they approach the games against other teams.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Paddy, Miff said that Rangers were potentially surprised by how Celtic played. Were you surprised by just how well we played that first half?
No, because I think we've been crying out for this all season, a more settled starting 11, and I think that what Rio Hatate brings to the table is just night and day from what we've seen pretty much all season from our midfield three. It's not 1-2 touch, it's the pass is made straight away when he's receiving the ball. He knows where everyone is on the park, and even coming up against the conditions yesterday, I still thought that his ball's in behind, sometimes not even looking to where anyone is, but still putting it onto a run for Idah or Kyogo. I just thought that was the difference for Celtic yesterday. We were a lot more settled, very, very comfortable on the ball, which we know we can do. But there's been games this season where we've just looked a little bit lacklustre on that side. It was back to kind of what we've seen from our team last season, in my opinion. The confidence that we had before we wrapped up the league title. And that's a really, really good thing for Celtic. That's starting to click now. I think it's massive.
I think one of the biggest talents that Rio Hatate has is that when required, he can slow the game down and look very composed and assured. But also when required, he can snap into a really quick pass that starts the next break. He's such a talent, and I think you realise even just this last game and a half or so just how much Celtic have missed him, and hopefully he's good to go for the remainder of the campaign. James, you and I done the post match, and it's interesting. A lot of folk, I think, will have had a certain opinion right on the final whistle that's potentially changed in the 24 hours or so that have passed since. But overall, now that the dust is settled, do you see it as a point gained or 2 dropped?
It's a point gained. You know, I felt that. Do you know when I felt it? When they started celebrating, that was such a misread from them. I'd be killing my players for doing that.
He told them to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know. Mm-hmm. Just really the wrong attitude, wrong headspace. Everything about that is wrong. It just tells you where they're at, as you're saying, Miff. We're getting into that. Cal McGregor saying there's some disappointed heads in the bus, Celtic players, because they're frustrated didn't get the win, but they're not celebrating the draw like Rangers are, thinking that, that's them on a good place. They're absolutely not. So it's going to be tough running, but I think we've got it.
Just on the running then though, so you'll have seen or read Celtic in our remaining 6 games, 4 at home and 2 away. Rangers have got 7 games to play, starting with Dundee away on Wednesday, maybe, weather permitting. But they've got 2 home games and 5 away. How much of an impact, Miff, do you think that could have on the end result?
In a normal season, you would say Celtic are probably even favourites, but given how Celtic's home form's been this season, we've been very indifferent. I take your point, Paddy, with different players available. I think Rio Hatate missing, we could do an hour-long special on him and just sit and talk about how good he is. He's just fantastic, and he's just a great player to watch. He was so unlucky not to score yesterday, and I think him being back might actually see an improvement in us being able to break down the low block that we'll face at Celtic Park in those 4 games.
Yeah. Spoken about Rio Hatate, what about Matt O'Reilly and that penalty, Paddy?
I think for me, with O'Reilly, it's just again another performance from him where he loves it against them. I thought he was everywhere in the first half especially. And I think just the confidence he'll get with having someone like Hatate next to him just gives him a bit more freedom. But my God, I just thought he covered every blade of grass.
I think as well, we've been missing a trick not having O'Reilly hitting the penalties, because by the time he goes to strike the ball, the keeper's already in love with him.
Just give them the eyes.
That's beautiful.
That's a ridiculous penalty. Incredible.
Ibrox.
It takes some character, doesn't it? A full house against you. All the pressure that brings. Pivotal moment in the game, 1-0 at the time, and having the character. It says a lot about him.
It does, and just even better that Southgate was in the crowd.
Can I pick up?
Better.
This has been a bugbear of mine. The Rangers were utter dog meat in that first half. I don't care what MD says, right?
They were.
Utter dog meat. Kenny Miller was more interested in getting Jack Butland a call up for England than he was about how snide Rangers were.
But that's all they had to talk about. They didn't do anything.
It was fantastic.
Aye.
It's like, are you stupid? And he's actually, are you watching what's going on here? But I think he should do better for the first goal and the third goal.
It's funny, the narrative coming out is that actually he could do a lot worse than consider Joe Hart for a recall. Rather than take Butland.
The Hearts saved before half time.
Huge.
Outstanding.
Double save.
Outstanding.
We covered it last week. We got a wee bit of feedback in terms of, I was suggesting he might be a good shout for Player of the Year, and maybe it was yourself, Paddy, said that a lot would ride on what he done in these last couple of Rangers games in the league. He's played his part again. Yes, he can't do much, if anything, about the 3 goals.
Nothing about
It's not just those 2 games, though. It's every game. I think he's treating it as his last. He knows that it's coming to an end, and he's just given everything in them. You can see that. You see the determination of him. A couple of times I thought he could have came for a few crosses that were in or around the 6-yard box yesterday. But having said that,
swirling
wins, you're up against it, and actually some really, really good corners from him yesterday. They were very dangerous.
And a beautiful through ball for the assist for the first goal.
Good vision.
Just
Great
incredible,
vision.
man.
Great.
What?
You can see the picture in front of him.
What about that?
It's so. I know. I hope the wind catches this.
We talk always in the build up, in the weeks ahead of this game, you're thinking what the team might be, and quite simply, and it's not for his technical ability, but you just say, well, listen, my Idah starts because Tavernier has nightmares about him.
No.
And so it proves to be time
100%.
after time after time. What's Tavernier thinking of there? He's got a pass back to the goalie. He can put out for a corner. He can do everything but what he done.
The bit for me is the realisation. See when he's weighing his hands down, like, calm down, take it easy here, let's get control of the ball. Oh my God, he's behind me.
Should that be a surprise that Dai's Maida's behind you?
But he's not a good defender. We've always said that.
No, do you know what I think? The laddie just clearly isn't very bright.
Nah.
I don't mean that in an offensive way. It's just
does
how many other times? No, but he has had real life live lessons on how many occasions in games against him.
Did you see?
And yet still refuses to learn.
Did you see the video compilation of all his mistakes against us?
I saw last week.
Incredible. Add it to the reel.
Great
Superb.
viewing. The other point I definitely want to cover, a lot of the noise pre-match was about Callum McGregor, would he make the lineup and all that kind of stuff. They've certainly pushed him to be available. I've no doubt that he played a huge part on the day in terms of his influence, being around the squad, being in the dressing room pre-match and all that stuff. But in terms of where he's at, Paddy, I think it was a gamble that didn't quite pay off. He had a really slack pass that led to one of the goals, and he just wasn't at himself. He just didn't have that sharpness today.
No, he didn't, and it's such a frantic game to come into as well. I think we've kind of brought him on to settle the nerves, but I think with the wind being in Rangers' favour in the second half, where it looks like things we were up against it, he just looked as if he was on the back foot quite a bit, and he just looked half a yard off the pace. Yeah. Listen, it will come. We know how important he is for us, and I'm pretty sure he'll be in the starting lineup if he stays fit when it comes to the game at Celtic Park. He's massive for us. I get the psychological side of having him around, but yeah, that pass, you could just see he was just looked heavy in the legs, and maybe just not up to the pace yet, but he'll get there.
I know, it just wasn't as crisp as you've come to expect from him, but I don't think he starts at the weekend coming by the looks of it. I think they might just give him another 20 minutes, half an hour and bed him in.
Bernardo's actually telling him to go on.
Aye, I seen that as
Bernardo's
well.
telling him to go on. He's telling him to go on,
Yeah.
he tries to flick it, but just on the point of McGregor, I'm not for 1 minute saying he isn't starting in any of Celtic's games for the rest of the season, but I think we'd all say that first half performance is as well as we've played in terms of ball retention and pressing, and it doesn't involve him. So I think you have to apply the same rules to McGregor as you would to anyone else.
You could rotate him out of the six.
Yeah, I agreed,
but
but I think whilst Iwata didn't stand out in any way kind of on the ball, I thought he'd done a lot of the dirty work. Just in that sort of defensive area,
He provides a platform to let the
and he's always available. He's always available.
Ref watch and all that stuff. Paddy, what was your general feeling on John Beaton? So obviously quite a few notable incidents. Overall, do you think he had a good game or a bad game, generally speaking? And are there any of the calls that he got wrong?
I think he had a bad game, and I think the penalty given to Rangers was the wrong decision. And for me, even him having to come up to the monitor for Celtic's penalty, you could see the fear in the guy's face. He did not want to be there.
No.
He did not want to be there.
Well, he's not on the crowd.
You look at exactly. But you look at the amount of fouls Celtic had yesterday in comparison to the amount of fouls Rangers had. You look at the manner in which a lot of the Rangers players were kind of going down so easily. I think the amount of times Connor Goldson handled the ball before the whistle's even been blown because he's fell on top of it, and just assuming that he'll give me a free kick for that. I thought it was very petty yesterday, and I don't think Celtic were doing too much. I think it was a bit of a tactical ploy for Rangers to get down easy.
My general take on Beaton, and it's hot on the heels of talking about guys like Neil McCann and Ali McCoist last week.
Jeez, oh man.
But my general take, so I think the Fabio Silva dive is a dive, but his VAR, Nick Walsh, his VAR ref is telling him, that's the move there.
But also very disingenuous replays of a slow-mo of the contact
Not
and
showing
not hitting the ball.
Yep.
He done that 5-6 times before he then showed a real-time different angle
he's
for
been
Johnson
already
hit the
made
ball. So that's on Walsh.
Yeah,
that is absolutely on
poor,
Walsh.
and that's
and as a
not
fellow
correct.
small man, he should know better.
Yeah, it's not correct use of the VAR technology. But my general point was, if John Beaton is the super cheat that he's been suggested as being, there was a real opportunity for him to go big. He could have legitimately sent off Alistair Johnson.
Not legitimately.
How no?
Attempting the ball. It's not a booking.
Well, he's fit, right. What I'm saying is there's a chance for him to send off Alistair
I could
Johnson.
take behind
right?
it. I enjoyed him trash talking.
Shut up.
And I enjoyed him trash talking Big Goldson. He's like, me.
Right, so there's that. Right, he's got the opportunity to send off. He could have sent off Johnson, and it wouldn't have made huge headlines. Second yellow card. Yep. And the other thing is where Ibrox is rocking at 2 each after Desser's goal. He could easily have went, nah, there's not enough in that foul. The goal stands.
But it's a clear foul.
Even though it's a blatant foul and he should have given it the first time.
But what I'm saying is, if he is the big cheat that everyone says he is, there was his opportunity to do that.
Can I just ask a question, Tino? What bar did you go to last night after? Was it the Crown Bar? Was it the Crown Bar, perchance?
What I would say,
I'm just trying to offer the alternative though. I think there was opportunities for him to go big. He could have 3 pints for life in the Crown Bar if he wanted to, if he'd have gone big.
he's 5 yards away for the foul on Iwata, and he's made a mistake.
And he's looking right
it
at it.
has to go back. And if he goes and says that's not a foul,
So what is he a cheater, is he no?
He's a cheat.
I think
He's still a cheat.
this shows you how conditioned we are into what we think is good or bad. All you've done there is point out where he's applied the rules, and we're like, that was
Good
biggie, you know what I
referee,
mean?
get him back.
I think what he is petty because Iwata's got a better build than him.
I think he showed exactly who he is with his unconscious bias when Yang took a head knock and Rangers were on the attack.
This is the big
and
one.
that was clear unconscious bias. He's like, that's a head knock, but Rangers on the attack, and that's more important.
But part of really, really small things throughout the game,
Yep.
there were so many fouls for
The wee
Celtic
fouls.
against Celtic that we didn't get. We didn't get. The game just played on.
Do
Honestly,
you want to know the one that infuriated me more than the bogus penalty? Was Tom Lawrence's tackle on Hatate. Now, Nicholas couldn't get booked for grabbing the label on the side of Sterling's Rangers shirt, right? Tom Lawrence has went with his knee right through the back of Hatate. You could, I mean, there is literally no attempt to play the ball. Hatate's turned the ball around the corner and he's went through him.
Yeah, I remember.
Again, Tom Lawrence, another completely anonymous
I
player.
think he's one of their best
surprised.
players.
I was really surprised.
Anonymous.
Add Tom Lawrence to Lundstrom, to Wright, to Cantwell. There's a few characters have got a lot to say for themselves and bring very little to the party. Okay, so John Beaton, he's not a good guy.
He's not a good guy.
He's a baddie.
No.
You're absolutely right, though. The one against Yang, clear head knock, clear as that he's well
automatic.
positioned to see it. But the Gers are on the attack, so you've got to be careful.
Hey,
You don't want to blow up.
Bears could score. Come on.
And then
It's
what-
an SFA
what
manual. I know a player might be injured, but the Bears are on the attack, so it's not bad.
couple of times.
that was a big one.
Couple of times yesterday as well. If you watch it back, they would leave the boot in just after maybe the pass has been played forward. So a couple of times I think Silva done it and Alistair Johnson. He's played the advantage, but the tackle's late and no hint of a yellow card or anything like that at all. It was poor officiating.
I think there was a succession of 4 Celtic tackles, 4 bookings,
It's crazy.
Three in the first half. So, 4 bookings for Celtic, 0 bookings for Rangers.
which coincides with Celtic pressing Rangers really well.
Aye.
So immediately, what does that do? It means that Celtic can't
Look
go
at
with the
Johnston.
same fervour.
Yeah.
Our right hand side was.
Kuhn and Maida as your wingers. All of a sudden, they need to slow down.
I know.
Just take it easy with what they're doing. So yeah, the niggly things. I think someone suggested that in the pre-match that watch out for the wee niggly fouls and the break-up stuff because Celtic were electric that first half, and it's like you can maybe curb that by dishing out a few yellows and just slowing the pace down. Aside from all the match action, referee stuff, penalties, goals, whatever. What about the send-off the players got on Saturday? I think that was phenomenal. So Green Brigade organised, North Curve Celtic organised, huge turnout. Don't know the numbers, but large crowds, flares, banners, the lot, and the players get such a boost there, Paddy, before they headed off for the game.
It's super important, isn't it? I think the fact that there was no Celtic fans in Ibrox yesterday, and the players would have definitely taken a lot from it, just knowing that the crowd are behind them. The crowd have got the faith in them, I think, for the running in this season, not just the game yesterday. And it's really important that they know that we've got their backs. And I think what's really nice about Celtic at the moment, you go back to January, it was a bit all over the place. Fans were angry with some of the players. Fans were definitely angry with the board. But I know we've still got someone in the studio here, but there was a lot of doubts over our manager as well. I think it's calming down a bit. I think everyone's in a bit of a run-in now, and we know that we all need to pull together. Do you hear that, man? Pull together.
No,
in this.
I agree. I think it's to Rodgers' credit, as I say, that he's steadied the ship and galvanised the squad because it could have collapsed. And I had a feeling for me that it was heading that way. More than a few people had said they thought we'd be out of the race by that game on Sunday. So to go in and still be top, albeit with Rangers having a game in hand, I think it's a great effort of a great nod to the recent form that the team's shown, and huge credit to the players more than anyone else for just continually finding a way. I don't think it can be underestimated or overestimated, should I say, the impact of having players on form is as well. So you've had somebody resurgent in Kuhn who didn't look like he was going to be able to contribute. He has. I'd say Kyogo's general performances have been massively improved in recent weeks. And you also need to remember back, see that time when Hatate and Maida were out the squad for the Asia Cup as well. They're two integral big parts of that squad, and they just weren't there. They weren't around. And I know people, Maida had scored that goal, was causing absolute chaos, got the ball first 10 minutes, bang, rose head, and he just has to get one of them every game. It's just the way it is. It's the order of the universe, right? But there is a direct correlation between him coming back, playing regularly, and Celtic playing better. I get how frustrating he is, but he's just one of those guys. You just need him in the team, full stop.
You've said it before, Miff, and it's hard to rationalise it, but just Put simply, Celtic are better when he plays. That's the bottom line. So you can look at some of the individual stuff and be puzzled by it, but overall, in terms of results and performances, we're better when Idah's around. James, just a quick final point on the Celtic way send-off from Saturday afternoon. What a boost that gives to guys like Nicholas Kuhn and Adam Idah, who have just arrived at Celtic in January. Don't really know what it's all about, although Idah, as an Irishman, will have some idea. But they certainly won't have played in anything quite as unique as a Celtic-free Ibrox, as they did on Sunday. What a boost for them to know that, albeit the fans aren't in the stadium, they're fully behind them.
It's massive. I was watching it kind of coming through on Saturday afternoon, and it's just, like you say, for players like that, maybe going into Ibrox first time and going, geez, we're right up against it here, but knowing the level of support they got, I don't think there's many clubs in the world you'll get that kind of thing the day before a game on a Saturday afternoon with the fans turn up in such numbers. It's outstanding.
Yeah, I thought it was a great boost.
Disappointed I didn't get an invite. I was in with the lads at Livingston. I thought maybe I'd get a wee text or a phone call.
You know what's up?
Go and nip down. Maybe go for a pint after it, but nothing come through.
Bring your flares. As mentioned though, myself and James covered the post-match. That's available now wherever you get your podcast or on the Celtic Exchange YouTube channel.
I have listened.
Have you?
Yes.
I like it.
First time listener.
James is my favourite.
Accepted. Coming up this week on Friday, we'll have the countdown to kick-off. I had a Celtic St Mirren, which is a 3 o'clock kick-off on Saturday. And then on Saturday, shortly after the final whistle, we'll have the final whistle show. Both of those episodes will be shown live on YouTube, so subscribe to the Celtic Exchange channel there to make sure you don't miss any shows. And if you prefer to listen to the podcast version, then follow the channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at two loan players who hooked up for Celtic's third goal at Ibrox and what future, if any, they may have in green and white. Welcome back, folks. So, Paulo, Bernardo and Adam Idah both came off the bench at Ibrox, and the loanees combined with devastating effect to grab Celtic's third goal in the 87th minute. As it stands just now, there's been no chat on any plans to keep them beyond their loan spells. So, James, should we be doing what we can to keep the two internationals at Celtic Park?
100% on Idah. I think he's shown well. He scored 3 really crucial goals, Hibs, Motherwell and Rangers there. But I think there's a lot more to develop in him. I think that's the biggest thing about him. He's 23, I think. Probably could say the same for Bernardo. Bernardo showed in getting that ball to Idah yesterday, real maturity there for a young guy. Not snatching at things, not rushing, not panicking. So there's definitely a really quality player in Bernardo. So you're probably looking at numbers more than anything else. If the numbers are right, I think we make good deals.
What do you think, Paddy? We've seen it from Bernardo, but only in flashes, I would say.
Aye.
But big moment against Rangers at Celtic Park, getting the goal there. Huge moment in the context of the season. Just yesterday at Ibrox there, as James says, Celtic have just been pegged back to 2 each. The stadium's going bonkers, and he's got the composure just to retain possession and then find Idah with a really crisp pass.
Great pass.
The pass that Callum McGregor couldn't make actually when he was struggling. But it's been a great pass in, and Idah then shown all the power and composure to snatch the third goal. So what's your general take on the two of them?
I think for the big man, definitely, he's done enough for me to go and get a permanent deal for him. Bernardo, I think it's still just getting more games under his belt. I think going forward, you can tell he's just very, very intelligent, an intelligent footballer. It's more off the ball. I like to see a bit more from him. I think he sometimes gets into a little bit of hiding. Doesn't always show in the greatest positions as well. But again, that comes from playing more at a higher level. He would have loved that yesterday, I think. And that's a great pass. As you say, the pressure's on. We've just lost the 2-goal lead. And it's just let's get them now. It's the best time to go and try and get another goal. And he played a brilliant ball for Idah, and the big man's done excellent.
Yeah.
Such quick feet and then just a great goal. I don't think any keeper's saving that. I think
it's so close to
the I do. I think it's a very, very good save. Very, very good goal. And I think even yesterday with Idah coming on, again, another headache for Goldson and Suter. They didn't really know how to contain him. And he had
Goldson.
See that when he got away with him though. That was again, that comes with intelligence. I think you're talking about, and experience as well, James. He wanted the glory. He wanted the goal. Poor decision making, and actually Yang comes in a lot of space at the back post. But I can't fault them. I thought they'd done really well when they come on, both of them.
I thought Idah was a real shining light actually of the second half. So Bernardo's not got much time. I think he came on in 82nd minute, but Idah's come on whatever it was, 70-ish, something like that. And he's just been a real handful. And I think he's really caused problems that Kyogo wasn't capable of. When I think about Adam Idah, I think that he's capable of scoring goals that Kyogo can't. and vice versa. Kyogo's capable of doing things that Idah, as a big, powerful frontman, can't quite do. But they complement each other well, and I think they give Celtic a different option at different times, Miff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be keen to see them in the team together. Very unlikely we will, just given the way that we play, for the system that we play. But for me, when you think about Bernardo, when he's playing at Celtic Park, he's often going side to side with the ball, just due to the nature of the way the game is. Yesterday you saw something that I don't think we've actually really seen him doing. That's drive forward with the ball. He's found a pocket of space and he's drove forward. All those years where you've been developing as a player were for that moment where, in a decisive point in a game, you need to keep your composure and trust your technique, and he has found that he has put the ball in the only place that would have given Celtic a chance to score.
It's a great pass.
It's absolutely threaded through. So when I look at that, I say, right, how's your ball, how's your technique under pressure? We've had a great illustration of that. I agree with Paddy's point. Need to see a bit more of it. Maybe need a bit more in the other areas of his game. But for me, his technique for his goal against Rangers, Celtic Park, his technique under real pressure at a point when everybody else around him was absolutely losing their heads, including the players in the park, because it was a really scrappy piece of play. I think Greg Taylor had tried his best to give the ball away a couple of times as well in that. So for him to do what he did at that exact moment was unreal. As far as Idah's concerned, I think that is an absolute no-brainer. I think he looks like what we had in Jackomakous, a very similar type of player that can offer an alternative to what we already have.
I think he's got a wee bit more skill in Jackomakous as well.
Yeah,
he's not just brute force.
Yeah.
I love Jackomakous, but he was all force,
Yeah. So for me, I think he's more than earned a move. Ultimately, you go back into that position that if you to lose the two of them or both of them go back to their parent clubs, the squad's weaker. So who are we going to bring in that's better? Are we going to spend the money to do so when we know we have two players who fit what we need right there? Again, with Bernardo, the slight caveat to that is I think he could be doing more. He does tend to be a wee bit anonymous in games.
Yeah.
But maybe it is that as past two games he's came off the bench against Livingston, against Rangers, he's been impactful. Maybe that's the best way to look at him just now with Hatate coming back in. There's a wee bit of pressure off. You're saying, right, there's 20 minutes, Paulo, go and do your thing.
We need to be succession planner for Matt O'Reilly as well. Got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It's a big possibility. Matt O'Reilly moves on. In terms of Adam Idah, so it's been a wee bit unclear as to what the deal is right now. Is he just on a loan with no prospect of a move, or is it potentially to make it something?
Yeah.
Well, he was shipped out on loan and Norwich signed Sidney Van Hoydonk, who we had been linked with. Now he's played very little.
He's going to go back.
Very little for him.
We were only linked with him by him and his dad. We weren't into him.
Very odd.
I had a look just during the weeks. Van Hooydonk's not scored a single goal for Norwich. The funny thing is, had we got Van Hooydonk, I think we'd have been swayed by the name and thought this is a great move, great January signing. And I think a lot of folks were disappointed potentially we never got him, and we instead got Adam Idah.
There were some who said it would be a good signing though.
Was it you?
Oh, well, I'm on record. You go back in the vault. You go back in the vault.
Tapes.
No, Idah.
Adam Idah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a very good signing.
I'm
on record.
Here's the question. So in terms of Adam Idah's general fact file, so 23 years of age, turned 23 in February, 24 caps for Ireland. 24 caps at that age is good going. 3 goals for Ireland. So far for Celtic, 11 appearances, only 6 of them are starts, and he's got 6 goals and 2 assists. It's a pretty strong return, Paddy. But here's a question. What kind of figure would you be happy to pay for someone like Idah? I've no idea. Do Norwich value him at a couple of mil? Is it 10 mil? Is it somewhere in between?
I think it'll be in between 5 and 10. I do.
Right. 7 or 8.
I would.
And you pay it?
Yeah,
I think so. I think so. I think Celtic really need to kind of wake up a little bit in the transfer market, as we've said. Wake up with the changing times of football as well. What was our last highest player? Was Edward at 9.5?
A long time ago.
Aye, that is a long time ago.
Yeah. And if the loan's been his addition, he's passed it.
Exactly.
What you've got as well, he, to an extent, there's not a lot of risk now that you've seen him. You know exactly what he's capable of, and also, you know, the fact that if you pay this kind of money at 23 years of age, you can make it back. So it's not like you're signing Adam Idah at 30 and you're saying, well, he'll do as a turn for a couple of seasons, then we don't get any sell-on value. So it works for Celtic. So would you lads be quite happy if we paid, say, 8 million? I think that's decent value.
I think I would be happy with that, yeah, but I don't think it will come to that. I think they'll be able to get a deal for less than that, given where he was at Norwich in terms of, you know, not featuring, you know, not even on the bench. I think he was out the squad altogether. So you can't really have a guy like that treating him like that and then say, "Oh, we want 10 million from him," doesn't really work.
Peter Lawwell's listening right now would be like, "That's my guy.
That's the guy.
That's my guy."
Can we do it cheaper?
Whether or not we do sign Idah, Miff, do you think that we still need to strengthen further in the striking department, particularly given that O has disappeared?
Well, that would have been my response, is that we would have to, given that O seems to be completely out of the reckoning.
O's not played 1 minute of football in our last 7 games, Paddy. He's out the picture, and I know he does come in, and Brendan Rodgers seems to rate him, and he was aware of him from earlier parts of his career. But it's clear also at the same time that he just isn't convinced by what O's bringing to the party.
I think as we've kind of spoke about O quite a few times, and just in terms of he's just very raw, and sometimes at Celtic you just don't get the time. You don't get the chance.
Had chances.
He has had chances, and you don't get the time just to basically say that I'll get there. I don't think he's at the level required, sadly. Seems like a likeable chap, to be fair, but I wish him all the best.
You're a likeable guy, but I don't want to sign you for Celtic.
Well, that's your loss.
Harsh.
That's your
But
loss.
you know what I mean? Like there's,
I would still, I'd roll the dice and put him 6 months out and loan somewhere.
Maybe.
Scotland.
Maybe.
That's what I'd do. I'd
In
keep
Scotland.
him. I'd keep him 6 months at Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, wherever.
I think that's
send
fair.
him out
Same.
and see how he does.
same as Quan, make that kind of move, keep him local, keep an eye on him.
There we go.
Shoehorn that.
He'll get a Quan and a Mikey Johnson in there, guaranteed.
Breaking news, lads, Mikey Johnson's been
Oh, for God's
nominated
sake.
for the Championship Player of the Month for March. I'll just leave it out there and you can do what you want with that information. Just to go back to Paulo Bernardo, yes, as I say, we've seen flashes what he can do. Very impressive for the assist to Matt O'Reilly yesterday. But the big question is, do you pay 6 for him? And is he notably better than someone like Daniel Kelly that we've seen breaking through? If you sign Paulo Bernardo, you put the brakes on the progress of someone like Daniel Kelly. Where are you at on that balance, James? What would you like to see happen?
You need to have both there. Kelly featuring and looking to stake his claim. Just, I'm really delighted that Kelly's broke through in the first team, but I haven't seen anything from him that said that guy's now going to command a first team place. So you can't rely on him at this stage, but you've got to have him available. And a player like Bernardo playing in front of him and they rotate, he plays off the bench, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's a combination of things with Kelly. I think it's the fact that a bit of excitement that somebody has obviously been deemed good enough to be hanging about the squad for a period of time, but also he's a physical specimen. And in Scottish football, if you've got a midfielder that can cover the ground and offer a bit of physicality, it's a major plus. Added bonus was that he scored a cracking goal in the cup, but should have buried the net with that one at Livy.
Yeah.
Part of the thing for Daniel Kelly for me is I agree to a huge extent that out with the goal he scored for Celtic, he's still yet to set the header alight. But the fact that Brendan Rodgers trusts him, I was going to say it's good enough for me. It's probably not good enough for you.
No, absolutely not.
But it tells me that he must be seeing something. Now, obviously, we've had a situation there where Callum McGregor's been missing and struggling through injury, as has Hatate. So there's 2 centre mids out. Kelly gets his opportunity. But as we touched on in a few shows in recent times, Paddy, you do, as part of the longer term evolution of what Celtic are doing, you do want to see more youth players coming through, because at the moment there's been a bit of a gap. We speak frequently about Calmac, Jamesy Forrest, KT being the real shining lights in recent years. There's not a lot out with that.
There's not, and I think it was something that Ange really wanted to focus on, and I think there is a bit more of a stronger infrastructure there, to be honest. But we'll need to wait and see. Even the fact when our manager, when Ange came in, he said the youth teams aren't playing the same system. Like from what the first team are playing, stuff like that is that's really, really poor. So it's good to see that I think that is the focus going forward. I think we have really looked at that. I think obviously with the arrangement of what's happening at Barrafield as well for the ladies team, and I think a lot to do with the youth teams in both the men's and the women's game. I think they know that they need to kind of start getting that right, because there's also loads of clubs that their youth set up, they're making a lot of money off it as well, and I think we've got the opportunity to do that. I really do. Daniel Kelly is definitely in and around this Celtic squad for the foreseeable. I definitely think that, but I still think you look at someone like Paulo Bernardo, we're hoping that if we do lose Matt O'Reilly, that's the replacement. For me anyway, I think that he's still got a lot to prove, but just going to games like the game at the end of December, the goal against Rangers, the performance that day from him, and then coming on and getting us right back on the front foot again yesterday, it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Yep.
A lot of character in that environment.
One thing just to add in around the summer and going back to January, as we've mentioned, both Kuhn and Idah. January was seen as a unmitigated disaster for Celtic in the transfer window. However, James, I distinctly remember saying that it's not been a case of failure to get business done as such. It's more been a case of the players brought to Rodgers deemed not to be good enough.
Yeah.
But where I have to give Rodgers credit, if that has been the case,
We know that to be the case.
the two players that he has signed have improved the squad.
Yep.
Aye.
Absolutely have improved the squad. So, as a Celtic fan looking to the summer, the optimism has to come from gone are the days of us just going out and signing numbers and projects. What we're going to actually identify are players of the ilk of Kuhn and Idah, whatever pronunciation you want to use, who are actually going to come in and improve the squad and potentially the starting 11.
And what a risk to go and take that and say they're not good enough, they're not
When
improving.
you
it.
needed players.
We needed
You know what I mean?
players, and but we're still here. We're still going for this league title. I think it's a huge risk from them to do that.
At a time when fans were tense, we were making a lot of noise as much as anyone else, and it potentially have been easier just to sign somebody.
Some more than others.
You know what I mean? You could have made that signing just to appease folk in the short term,
Yeah.
and
But then you've got a player for 3 years.
you realise it's not
Getting
the
wages.
We've got a lot of them.
So there's no doubt. I mean, I've given you Idah's facts. 6 goals and 2 assists, but they're huge goals. I think the third goal at Ibrox, the 2 goals at Easter Road, the 2 goals at Motherwell.
Aye.
Huge goals. Title changing goals. So he's played a huge part, and Kuhn started to have that kind of impact. 3 man of the matches in the last 4 games, I think it is, and he'll go on to play his part over these last 6 league games and hopefully 2 Scottish Cup games. Just a final question, Paddy, on the Bernardo situation. If you do go and pay the rumoured $6 million to sign someone like him, does that still allow you to develop a Daniel Kelly? If Daniel Kelly's good enough, is there still scope and room to bring him through?
Yeah, I think so. We've seen the course of the last few seasons. We've not had a fully fit Callum McGregor for the last couple of seasons. He's been out with injuries. And, the way we play football was very likely our more attacking, creative players are going to end up with injuries, I think, just the way football goes. A lot of games in the season as well. So I do think Daniel Kelly certainly has a say. I wonder if he'll be used quite a lot, even when it comes to pre-season, with some of the guys away in international duty with the Euros as well. I think he'll be in and around that big time for us this year. I think it's looking good for him, I do.
Rocco Vata's fallen off the radar, hasn't he? A puzzler.
Just seems to be attitude.
It does. Every murmuring, I'm getting on it. It seems to be he wants to go elsewhere. So
On you go.
on you go.
Catch it.
Right.
Maybe. So just in terms of Paulo Bernardo's fact file, so he's 22, a wee bit younger than Idah. 20 caps for the Portugal under-21s. I think he captains the 21s.
Mm-hmm.
He also was in the press last week talking about his friendship with Fabio Silva. He can cut that out. He can cut that out.
Pathetic guy, man.
Strange character. But anyway, so Bernardo, 20 caps and 6 goals for the 21s. And at Celtic, he's got 27 appearances this season, so he's played his part. Albeit it doesn't always start, but 15 have been starts, and he's got 4 goals and 3 assists, yesterday being the most recent one. James, are you happy to pay $6 million? Is that ballpark for a guy of his standing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just Paddy's point there, we need to shift our mindset as to what footballers cost. They're still doing this like 2-3 million nonsense that, it's just 20-year-old stuff. We need to pay proper money for proper players, of which he is one. He's got potential to be a really strong player for Celtic over the years. So if you're not spending 6 on him, you need to go and spend 8 or 10 on somebody else. So you know what you can do. So it's not just that, the money for him, the money for Idah. It's you're going to have to Celtic have got a lot of money to be spent this summer because we didn't spend it over the last. Well, actually did spend money last summer very, very badly. That's the biggest problem we've got is Deadwood cluttering up the squad. Getting bodies out has been a problem for a long time now. Just budgetary wise,
If we do sign Idah to join Kyogo as a striker, being out the picture, maybe he'll go on loan. Do we need to sign another striker?
I don't see anyone coming through from youth. I mean, my preferred situation is you've got those 2 guys, a big guy and a wee guy, and they're both very capable of contributing, and you want to see a youngster on the bench that can kind of rotate with them. I don't see that, so probably. And it might be something along of a development striker, not signing a 10, 50 million pound striker, but signing a guy that you can develop.
Interesting to see. So generally speaking, then I think overall agreement, both players, if we can, we should be signing them both. Yeah. So let's see how that plays out. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll be bringing you the latest mystery voices. Miff looks to keep up his 100% start in our new feature. Welcome back, folks. Last week, James got the mystery voice almost immediately, and the answer was, of course.
Can't remember.
Can't remember. No. But we're talking about him earlier on. It was Georges Jackomakous. So Jackomakous signed during Ange's first transfer window in August 2021. Cost us $2.5 million from Venlo in the Netherlands. I think he arrived as top scorer in Eredivisie.
COVID season.
Decent.
That's incredible.
And at Celtic, 57 appearances, 6 goals, 2 assists. He left us in January 2023 to sign for Atlanta in the MLS. Smith, I'll come to you
The
first.
Steve McLaren move.
Thoughts on Georges Jackomakous?
Brilliant. Although did waste a fair amount of chances as well. I think when somebody leaves, you've got this picture painted on. But he was a fantastic signing for us, and we really did miss him. When he left, we thought would be a replacement of sorts, but it's just not worked out that way. So I'm not surprised that he's doing well over it. He's just that type of player that will always score goals. Just I think football fans love that type of striker, just a big rough house that will get in and around the box and score goals. So absolutely bullied Rangers anytime we played against them, and that always goes down well.
I think he's become a bit of a fan's favourite over there, Paddy. He's got something like 24 goals in 34 games, and when he made his move at first, you were seeing clips every other week of great goals that he was scoring. I
think the league's definitely suiting him. It's not a bad standard. I don't think it's as quick as what we play in here. So I think that actually suits him a bit better, in my opinion. But he's scoring every week. Yeah, so he only had a season and a half, give or take, James, but lots of folk at the time said we should never have let him go. I don't think he had a choice. He wanted to go. He didn't want to play second fiddle to Kyogo. That's the bottom line. He's now 29, so he was at that age where it was stick or twist. You had to make that move at that time in your career. Which you can understand.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So he's gone. And I think generally he goes with everyone's best wishes and well remembered as a good Celtic striker.
Yeah, and really crucial in the titles we won. I loved him. Just my kind of striker, big physical guy. I think it was just the time of his career, getting into his late 20s, want to play football, want to get paid as well. But he came up against Ange. He started making demands of Ange, and Ange was like, nah, doesn't work.
Yeah. Off you pop. But no, well-regarded striker, Georges Jackomakous. Okay, let's take a listen to this week's mystery voice.
We take everything aside. I think that's what they miss. You don't get that any places. You don't get that atmosphere or the passion or the. People talk about the clubs and size of clubs, but it's the fans. It's the fans that make it, and that's the things that come across to the players when they leave Celtic.
Any ideas?
I thought.
Why do you not say it?
Because he said it first.
I've heard the interview.
Have you?
Yeah.
What was he saying?
About Wolves and stuff on it.
Yeah, it was a feature. I think it was Celtic Icons, and they covered his whole career. So I'll not reveal it. The answer will get beeped out. We'll play it one more time, Dave, for anyone listening at home, just to get a second bite at it.
We take everything aside. I think that's what they miss. You don't get that any places. You don't get that atmosphere or the passion or the. People talk about the clubs and size of clubs, but it's the fans. It's the fans that make it, and that's the things that come across to the players when they leave Celtic.
Yep, so we'll get it beeped out, but Miff's 2 for 2. Well done, Miff.
210.
We'll give a small clue for anyone playing at home. This player played under Tommy Burns, Wim Janssen, Joe Venglos, John Barnes, Kenny Dalglish and Martin O'Neill during his time at Celtic. And as always, we'll reveal the answer in next week's show. We'll also reshare the clip on the socials for anyone who wants to have a go there. Miff, to close out the show. The result at Ibrox now means that Brendan Rodgers has extended his record against Rangers to 12 wins, 3 draws and 1 loss in 16 games. No matter how you feel about him, that's a pretty incredible record. So how do you feel about him?
Not really much different, to be honest. I support Celtic, no Brendan Rodgers, but when he's there, I kind of need to support him. I'm not bitter. I just, like I said, I'm Nah. I think what's became apparent is that he's came back under conditions which were not what he believed they were going to be.
Yeah.
So I'll absolutely give him that. And what's also becoming apparent is that when he's got the players available that he needs, the standard of football is much, much better than what we were served up at the turn of the year. That was just dreadful. Probably the bigger point to play there is, well, who's brought in those substandard players, and we've already debated that point many times over. But ultimately we are where we are, and like I alluded to, if the signings in the ilk of Kuhn and Idah are what's to come, and Rodgers is steering that particular ship as well as other areas of the club, much in the same way as I believe Ange was when he was here. I'd say that bodes relatively well for next year. So, let's crack on and let's do it. I think, if I'm being fair to Brendan Rodgers, he can only be judged when he has control of that department and he is bringing in his own players and it's his squad. He is still kind of working with a lot of players that Ange brought in. So he's came in and he's had to work under some fairly tough conditions around the injuries that we've had as well. With big players have been injured for fair periods of this season. No different to any other team. I take that, but
Really significant players.
in terms of the style that we want to play, it's massive. So, yeah, I think it looks like he's going to be here, unless maybe he gets an offer in, then he might not be. But some people are a bit more confident around that than others. So let's go with it and let's see how we go. But it certainly all seems to, for me now, given where we were at the turn of the year, as I say, it feels like momentum's building again, and we're definitely, whether we win the league or not, by the way, I hasten to say that, it feels to me like things are heading in the right direction, and you can look forward to next season with a significant amount of optimism.
I mean, nothing will help a Celtic manager, Paddy, than your Derby record. As I say, 1 loss in 16 games across 2 different spells, and despite all the noise this season, 2 big wins and a very important draw at Ibrox yesterday. Where are you at him in general? I mean, you were always fairly on side with the appointment. How do you feel about how he's doing? So we're very much at the business end of this season, chasing down a league and cup double. Could be a huge season for us if all things go as we hope them to. So how do you feel about how he's performed in this first season back?
I think Miff's made a lot of the points there already. It's been actually a really difficult season for what he's come in to, what looked like he was promised, the chat of wanting to do a bit more in Europe, the chat of looking to try and bring in quality, and he's the amount of interviews in the end of the summer transfer window and in the winter one, talking about the level of quality. He knows what the team needs, and I think that's a big factor. I think the forward planning for next season has already begun. I do think he really wants to be here. He won't get sacked because they'll not pay the money to sack him. So he'll stand his ground in terms of wanting to be here. People were talking yesterday, if he doesn't win the league, it's Celtic's fault. It's a club failure. I wouldn't say it's just down to the manager personally. I would say he's involved in it. Absolutely, he's not blameless. But
sorry, I was just clearing my throat.
Aye, okay.
One arm behind his back.
Aye, just in a sense. But I also think that what we can see in this running is a team that's just wanting to play for him. And I think that now he's got players back. He's got big players back in terms of like Rio Hatate, and we will see Callum McGregor play a pivotal role in this running as well. And I just think it just looks like a good place. I was looking at the bench yesterday. Each goal, they were all up. They're all hugging each other. The third goal, they were all on top of each other. I just think that they know what it takes. They know that there's been mistakes this season, but they're all together because they need to be for this running.
Tino, I know you're a huge Gav Strack fan. Check out his celebration for a Riley's penalty.
He loved it. I seen it. He absolutely loved it.
It was the big one. He was giving it the big one.
Superb.
I think it's a great point though, Paddy. You've seen, particularly with Adam Idah's goal, Adam Idah makes a beeline for the gaffer in the bench, and they're all unified, they're in it together. And you hear different rumours and you get those stupid WhatsApp messages throughout the season. Brendan Rodgers has fell out with such and such because he done this and he done that. Regardless what all that is, what you can clearly see, James, in front of your very eyes is a team unified behind the manager.
Yeah, but I think that's always been the case. It's that the reason we've had a sticky season is technical. It's technical in terms of not signing the guys we should have signed, signing guys we shouldn't have signed. It's not been about spirit. The spirit's always been there. So now you've got full squad back. The football's starting to really flow, but the cohesion amongst the team is just outstanding. And I think those goals just show everything.
I was going to ask just generally, James, do you feel that he's now been accepted by the vast majority of the fans? I feel that that's the case, and I know you joke, but you do accept them, don't you? Kind of.
But I need to.
Well, I suppose you do. You've got no choice. But generally speaking, I think the vast majority of fans are behind him, James, and I think it was shown. We've touched on it. The reception he individually got at the Celtic Way before the players took off for the game on Saturday. He comes out. He knows how to play the crowd, doesn't he? The old one-arm salute.
Let's put it this way: all of us, and I include like, you know, all of us, every Celtic fan, would you have thought that possible?
No, but I think we did
At the
a
start of the
podcast on it. What?
That he would have had that, like, going away to Ibrox, that the fans would have turned out for him and the team like that.
Aye.
And he would have received that sort of reception, especially when the season's went the way it has. I think it's a huge vote from the Celtic fans to say, we're here and we're behind you. You know, listen, at the end of the day, not everybody's like me, and that's fine. I don't particularly care. But the fact, how that must feel for him to receive that backing, and I think a huge amount of credit goes to the North Curve for orchestrating that, because, you know, like you say, for guys like Kuhn, people that haven't been here long, yes, but even for guys like, you know, guys like Greg Taylor, guys like Carter Vickers that have been here and done it, if there was ever any doubt that the fans are behind you, just a big deep breath before you travel off, and you see that 100. I don't care how experienced you are.
Yeah.
You're going to get a boost off it.
I think it's a really unique thing. You could play football for a 15-year career and never experience something like that. So I think you're right, Miff, whether it's guys that are just in the door or have been there at Celtic a long time. Stephen Welsh has grown up known nothing but Celtic. He'll have had the hairs in the back of the neck, you know, coming out to a club like that.
Another person who celebrated
I
each
seen
goal,
him.
each 3 goals like a fan, sitting in the
He just
dugout.
is.
Oh, it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
See your question though, would you have said that would have happened at the start of the season? I would say yes, solely
You
because
would,
but solely because he's a good manager. He's a great manager. That's what
We went from good to great in half a second there.
Well,
That's how good he is.
That's been our season so far. No, but what I'm saying is that I think that we forget that it's an incredible appointment to get him back. Yes, there's been issues this season. Yes, there's been mistakes, absolutely. But as James has said, one arm behind your back, and I still think that he's going to go and lift both trophies and bring that other arm round.
For those
honestly.
not watching on YouTube, Miff rolls eyes as
Yes.
Barry speaks.
He can crack
Asterix, Miff rolls eyes. Asterix.
Well, here's the thing. There was an opportunity. Brendan Rodgers was announced whenever that was in summertime, and Celtic as a club had a decision to make. How do you do it? Because first time around they had to open the main stand for him, and he gets that huge reception back in 2016. This time it's kind of one man in his dug. You know, there's a
Staged interview.
there's a small crowd outside, and he did address the crowd and he said, "Listen, for those who doubt me, I'll see you back here in May." And I really, really hope he's proven right with that one. But you've gone from that, Miff. You're absolutely right. There was mixed responses, and some people just will never come round to his appointment, whereas some have got used to it. And do you know what? Beating Rangers twice and drawn once so far very much helps. You know, you win round those doubters. But the reception he and the players got tells you that the fan base, by and large, are really unified behind what the squad's doing. And you said that, you know, you two lads were joking earlier on, we need this unified front moving forward, and we're getting it, aren't we, buddy?
It's this running's so important, and I think for me it has advantaged Celtic. I know you made a very good point about the home form this season, Miff, but I just think that something's clicking, something's starting to really gel now, and I think they're getting the guys they want back, and I would be scared to play Celtic in the running. I really would. I think we're going to go for everyone.
Yeah, do you know, I think there's a wee bit of trepidation about going to Kilmarnock.
Trepidation.
Eredivisie.
There's a bit of fear going there. I should have used that word initially. Is that how you feel? If I feel confident, I think Celtic are in a good place, and I think Brendan Rodgers, James and I, as I said, done the post-match, and I said that his biggest job in the next couple of days is just reminding the players how good they are. Shake off the disappointment, the slight disappointment at not getting the 3 points at Ibrox, but then quickly resetting and saying, but do you know what? It's all here for you, and you're more than capable of going and blowing away the rest of this season.
Well, I think I'd said that, obviously I've not been on a couple of weeks, and I'd said that the Livingston game would tell us a lot. I think it did. I think it told us how much we'd missed Rio Hatate for a start. But also told us what the squad got to be like, what the players got to be like, and they were frustrated first half, but they kept at it, and it was pretty relentless stuff in the end. Livingston have obviously had their troubles to see this season, but on that pitch, playing the way that they play, it's a difficult conundrum for any team to solve, especially with the way that Celtic play, when they are going to try and get the ball down and, you know, move the ball from side to side. But I was at that game, and I felt, you know, being there and the vibe in the stadium with the fans, and the way that the fans got really behind the team, and the way that the team responded to that, even when they were frustrated, I thought was a huge indicator as to what's to come. And the first half performance against Rangers has only served to reinforce that even further. there are mitigating circumstances to why the game turned. I think the awarding of the penalty is probably the most obvious thing because it completely swings the game. But the fact remains that it would not have flattered Celtic to be 4 or 5 up at half time.
No.
And that's an amazing thing to come away from a game at Ibrox with that feeling. What remains, we talk about Rodgers and we talk about how he's been received in the unified front. It doesn't take much for that unified front to disappear. The unified front will remain as long as we win. When we don't win, that's when there will be a problem. And all those things that we've already spoke about multiple times over the course of the season will rear their head again, especially by opportunists like me who'll be bristling there to go and bring them up. All joking aside though, that's what will happen. There'll be that inquest. What I'm saying is, even as somebody that's not a huge fan of Rodgers, as you know, and that's purely just because of the historical stuff, at times I've found his football bland this season, but there's been mitigating circumstances for that. He will be the manager next season. I think regardless of how these last 6 games go, he will be the manager next season, as Paddy says, not only for monetary reasons. What I would say is, whilst I'm not overly enamoured with the style of football we play at times, Ibrox was a display of when it does work. Unfortunately, teams won't always necessarily come out against us the way that Rangers do in their home patch, which means sometimes it can be turgid when you're at home. But when you look forward and you think, right, well, given how the season's turned out, it kind of started that way and now it's ending that way. Let's just forget about all the stuff in between. And I include myself in that. Let's just forget about all that stuff in between because it's done. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't want to go back and relive that Hearts game where we get beat 2-0 or the Motherwell game where we drew one each. I don't particularly ever want to go back there. Let's move forward and let's see where we get to. So, last 6 games in the cup games, hell for leather, see where we end up.
I'm all for that. Do you know, I think on Saturday, James, there's going to be a really frenzied atmosphere. At home to St Mirren, 3 o'clock on the back of that performance at Ibrox. I think it will be electric. I think, as we've agreed here, the fans are unified and we're excited because ultimately we don't need snookers, we're not relying on any favours. It's all here for us. And I think, listen, this isn't a new thing for Celtic fans, but we all realise now as much as ever how important a part we've got to play, and I think you'll see that on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we're only Monday and I can't wait for Saturday to come, cliched as it is. And that's just a great thing to be, great mindset to be in. It's a proper title race. We've made it a title race by our own hand.
Yeah.
But it's a title race, and every game you can't wait for it.
Yeah, I think so.
Brendan's that great a manager, he done it for a laugh.
Aye,
good for the
8 points? Nah, lads.
Barry, final question on this one. Does he see out his full 3-year term as Celtic manager?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Would you like to answer it? You're very welcome. I'll try. My God. For me, it all just kind of goes on. If we win the league this season, there's a bit of momentum. How does he leave the team if he was to go and take a job elsewhere? The manner in which he does that is obviously questionable, considering what happened in the first term. But I think he does see an opportunity to go and do something with this football club, and I think that the promises have been made. Maybe not so much from our board, but from Dermot Desmond, that he will try and back something like that. The frustration could set in if that doesn't happen, and I think he's been frustrated this season. But they've got a season to get it right. So I think a lot would be determined on A, winning the league this year, B, what he gets this summer to get a bit of a foundation of his own squad in, alongside the great players that Ange has brought to the club as well, and then C, how we do in Europe next year. Champions League will be extremely difficult with this new format. And I tell you what, if it was to be the Europa League, that's not any easier at the moment as well. It's a really difficult competition. So the work will have started for this summer. I hope that it started. I hope that we are looking at it. If he gets it right next season, he's a good campaign in either Europa League or Champions League, then I think he'll want to progress in that in the third season.
You get the vibe, Paddy, that he's been sold on a vision, sold on a project, and I think that's one of the things that's encouraged him to come back. We're repeating ourselves to an extent here, but the chat was he was taking a year out of the game, had a long enough shift at Leicester, wanted to come back refreshed ahead of the next challenge. But whether it was Michael Nicholson, Dermot Desmond, or a combination of the two, he's been convinced to come back. And of course there's money, he's very well paid to be the Celtic manager, but I think he's been excited by what the potential is and what the project could be. How important do you think it is then that this summer transfer window he's properly backed and properly given the talent that he needs to take on that project?
It's massive. I think that as we've spoke about earlier on, the January transfer window, I do think it's been a case of the players just don't meet the requirements. So you obviously seen that we need to look at our scouting setup, and I think that again it'll maybe come down to the likes of Rodgers, his team, also identifying players. He does been one of them with the sounds of it. That's been a Rodgers signing, not a Celtic signing. That needs to stop. That needs to stop.
That's not a system, is it?
No,
But I think the biggest thing Rodgers is going to deliver in these 3 years is a legacy. I think he wants to put in place a structure that he told us to get when he ran away the first time.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you think-
And also a reason why I think he just done, they're giving me nothing here after that January transfer window. Still don't think it's the right thing to do.
Do you think like, in the summer there'll be like a war room in the Mallorca villa where he's got all the different screens up, like for the
Minority
Euros and that, and he's sitting.
Ted
You can just imagine
tellies.
Are you going
Gucci
to
belt on.
Are you going to go to the unveiling of the Rodgers statue in 5 years' time?
Absolutely not. Depends if he's won the European Cup with them, maybe.
Yeah, but listen,
Who for?
promising
For Celtic.
Celtic. And obviously Miff, amongst others, is slowly but surely, I think, getting back on board the Brendan train. James, I'll come to you for your final comments for the week.
Just exciting times. That was massive yesterday. It really was, and you can say, a couple of points dropped that we could have been out of sight by half time, but in the grand scheme of this title race, it was massive, and it certainly put me in a good mindset for the run-in. So bring it on,
Paddy.
Yeah, share the same as James there. I think really excited for this run-in. We cost that ourselves yesterday. Two bad mistakes for McGregor and Yang, and I think they learned from it. But the football played in the first half, we beat every team. If we play like that, we beat every team in this run-in.
Yeah, it's potentially the best half of football we've played all season, isn't it? And
Superb.
It's exciting to watch. Miff, last word goes to yourself.
Well, the exciting thought is that the team are actually now, with the players that we have available, the settled squad that we have available, we're actually reaching the heights that we'd always hoped we'd reach more consistently throughout the season. If we reach that level of consistency over the next 6 games in the league, we will win it. I think we all know that, and I think every other team in the league knows that as well. However, what this season has also shown us is that we haven't done that yet, so that's a challenge. I pray to God that we do the business and we win the league and the cup as well. So yeah, onwards we go.
Back on the Brendan train.
Come on, Dundee.
So that wraps things
big
up
time.
on this latest episode of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. Thanks to James, Paddy and Miff for joining me, and thanks to you for tuning in. Don't forget to join us live on Friday for the Countdown to Kick-Off show ahead of Celtic v St Mirren this weekend. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for supporting the Celtic Exchange, and we'll see you again soon.